Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. Um, I think we are live now. So, yes, hello, Ellen. Thank you very much for coming. It's great to see you. So, as usual, it would be very nice if you all just signed in and said hello and got ready to make a few contributions or ask a few questions as necessary. So, we have a lot of people here. That's great. Hello, Sylvie. And Kimura. Okay, welcome, Kimura. It's great to see you. Florence, welcome back. And Sonia, thank you for coming. Letelier, great. I got a nice email from Letelier this week. MDO, thank you for coming again. Mimi, I don't think you've been here before, so you're very welcome. Hello, Severine. Thank you for coming. I know you're busy this evening. It's great to see you. Letitia, it's a Google evening, Letitia. Okay. And hello, Martine and Jean-Marie. Welcome. So great to see you guys. It's really wonderful to have a nice group of people here this evening for this webinar, which is focused on grammar. So previously, we have done webinars about pronunciation, vocabulary, and now it's grammar's turn. So I know some people are a little bit afraid when they hear the word grammar. It can be boring or it can be stressful. So the idea tonight is to look at grammar in a slightly different way, in a new way that will hopefully help you with different constructions in English. So thank you all for coming. I'm just going to give a few more minutes for some people to arrive. So I have a question to start us off. I want to ask you, when you learned English in school, if you did learn English in school, what was your experience? Hello, Sebastian. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. So, what was your experience learning English in school? Did you study a lot of grammar? Yeah, you can tell me in the chat. So, when I was in school, I studied French. I started studying French at the age of 12, and I finished when I was about 17. So I did about 5 years of French study. Hello, Thais, welcome. And Ellen said that learning English in school was horrible and punishing. Wow. Okay, yes, yes, a lot of people say that. Why do you think it was horrible, Ellen? Sylvie said, I learned a lot of grammar without ever speaking. Oh, yes. And Annick Frank said it was boring. Severine said a lot of grammar and a lot of vocabulary. Yes. I think we can all agree that this doesn't sound very pleasant. It doesn't sound very positive. So Kimura says, I don't remember, it's too far, but English in school was boring. Yes, it's difficult to remember because it was so boring. Yes. Latelia said, not so difficult, but using it while speaking can be tricky. Exactly. That's the problem, using the grammar. No mistakes were allowed, Ellen. Yes, no mistakes were allowed. It was boring. Yes. They said it was only theory, not real practice. Yes, yes, yes. Lots of things were missed, I think. Yes, Jean-Marie said. So it sounds similar to my experience learning French. In French schools, French classes in English in Ireland, we did a lot of grammar. We learned all about conjugation of verbs, and more conjugation of verbs. We never got the chance to speak, and we had to write letters that we never sent to anybody. So we wrote a lot of letters saying, Cher Jean-Pierre, cher Jean-Jacques, and telling them about some of the things that we did. But like Ellen said, no mistakes were allowed. It had to be perfect, and it was really boring. So I agree with you. My philosophy on learning a language is that we shouldn't focus too much on grammar rules because it's boring and it's not really practical. You can learn all the rules and then you still don't know how to speak. You need speaking practice. But tonight we are going to look at some situations, but we're going to try to do it in a more positive way. So I'm glad that you shared your experiences there, and I hope now learning English, it's more positive for you because most people didn't enjoy learning English in school. Let me just share my screen. Mhm. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Mhm. The computer's a little bit slow. Good. So I will just tell you again, thank you very much for this evening's webinar, which as usual is organized with the help of Anglify. As most of you know, Anglify are an organization that can provide one-to-one language learning lessons. And the topic of tonight's webinar is about the English verb. Okay, so I hope it's not too boring, and I hope that you learn something new and come away with a more positive attitude towards English grammar, because sometimes teachers and schools make us feel negative about grammar and language. So as you know, my name is Patrick, and I am the usual host of these webinars. If you need to contact me about anything, just send me an email, patrick@anglify.com. So that's the topic for tonight, and we have a lot of work to do, so start it immediately. My first question is, what is a verb? What is a verb? So I think you all know that verbs are often referred to as action words. So the truth is that verbs can describe actions, states, or occurrences. So we have 3 sentences here. The bird is flying high in the sky. Welcome, Freddie. Thank you for joining. So the bird is flying high in the sky. I live in Paris. Ice floats on water. So we have actions. The bird is flying high in the sky. States, I live in Paris. And occurrences, ice floats on water. So things to remember about verbs. All complete sentences include at least one verb. So this can be the main verb. Sometimes there is a second verb, which is an auxiliary verb. So an auxiliary or helping verb. So if we take a very simple sentence, I like sport. Like is our verb. It's a main verb, of course. I don't like music. So we have the verb to do with the negative don't. It's our auxiliary verb. So it's important to think, and when you're reading sentences or thinking about English grammar, sometimes to identify the different parts. Can I find the main verb? Are there any other verbs in the sentence? Is it an auxiliary verb? So there will always be at least one verb in a sentence, in a complete sentence. Now, verbs can be main verbs or auxiliary verbs, and there are also dynamic and state verbs. So if we look at some examples, dynamic verbs show movement or action. So sometimes I think that my dog understands English because my dog knows the verbs to catch, because I throw the ball to her and she catches it. So I say, catch the ball, catch the ball. She knows the verb to bring it back. And she knows the verb to eat because she has to wait. And then, okay, eat, now eat. So these are all dynamic verbs, and my dog can understand some dynamic verbs, maybe 5 or 6. But if I want to really teach my dog English, to teach her state verbs is very difficult. So things like to know, to believe, to recognize, I cannot show these to my dog. They're more conceptual. They talk about a situation. So it's another good thing to think about verbs sometimes. Is that a dynamic verb or an action verb, or is that a state verb? Sometimes verbs can be both, depending on the context. So that's important, and we will return to it later. The next concept that is important is about verbs and time. So when we consider verbs, we often consider the time of the action. We can change the verb to give more information about when the action occurred. So often my French students talk about les temps, okay? So in English, we have two words. We have time and tense. So here I'm talking about time. So when did the action happen? Sometimes we use a tense to show that time. So we will look at that again later. But be careful, English does not have the same tense system as French or most Romance languages where you have a lot more tenses. So one thing to remember. So there is time and there is also aspect. So this means, hello Sylvain, welcome, no problem. So this means how we consider the verb. So you have the simple aspect and the continuous aspect. This is very important. So simple, when we choose to use the simple aspect, we are saying the duration, durée, I believe you say in French, the duration of the action is not important. The speaker views the event as a complete action. So they're more focused on the completeness of the action. Okay, so that's important to remember. Welcome, Natalie. Thank you for coming. And then we have the continuous. So the continuous says duration is important. The speaker views the event as incomplete in a particular time. The speaker is bringing attention to the limited duration of the action, or the action is in progress at a particular time. So sometimes we say the continuous or the progressive because the action is in progress. Remember previously when we spoke about dynamic verbs and state verbs? Well, generally, we do not use state verbs very much in the continuous. So we don't usually say things like, I am recognizing, I am knowing. It's not impossible and it's not wrong, but generally, these kinds of verbs are much more common in the simple because we are thinking about that state, not about something in action. So we have two examples. I am drinking some coffee. I was drinking some coffee when the phone rang. So if I have, I am drinking some coffee. And then if I think yesterday, when the phone rang, I was drinking some coffee. That action was in progress. Hello? Ah, okay. I was drinking some coffee when the phone rang. Okay. The next thing to think about is about the construction of the sentence. So as we saw before, both French and English have the general construction subject, verb, object. So I like chocolate. I is the subject, like is the verb, chocolate is the object. So it's very simple, subject, verb, object. You can also use it in a more complex sentence. The happy man lives in a small house near the sea. The happy man is our subject, lives is our verb, and a small house near the sea, connected with the preposition in, is our object, okay? So you can look at that in simple or complex ways. Another concept, there are just two more concepts to remember, is that negatives use not. So we use not to make a verb negative. So I do not like tea. We did not eat lunch. They have not been to New York. Sometimes we use never, especially with the present perfect. They have never been to New York. But as a general rule, you can always use not to make the verb negative. That can go together with an auxiliary verb like do or did or have. So not is key for negatives. And for questions, we use inversion to make questions. So a verb will go before the subject. So I can ask, do you like sport? So I need a verb before the subject. Do you like sport? Where did he go? For how long have you been learning English? So we need some kind of verb. Usually it will be an auxiliary verb, like do or did or have for the present perfect. It depends. But you need some kind of verb before the subject if you want to form a question. This is important. A lot of French people say things like, you live in Ireland? And technically, thank you, Severine, thank you. Technically, when you say you live in Ireland, it's a statement. Sometimes we understand it as a question based on the context and the tone of voice, but it's much less common than in other languages. So be careful. The best and clearest way to form a sentence is to use the inversion. Do you live in Ireland? So it's not impossible to use your tone of voice or the context to show that something is a question, but I hear a lot of French speakers overusing this concept, using it too much and not making it clear that they are asking a question. Concepts. And now I would like to look at some verbs. So we have the verb, hello, Nicole, welcome, no problem at all. So we have, you are just in time because now we are going to break up the verbs and look at the different forms of a verb. So we have the verb to walk, and you can see the verb has 5 main forms. To walk, walk, walked, walked, walking, and we also have walks. That's not used very much, but we will look at that because it's important to remember. So to walk, walk, walked, walked, walking, and walks. Those are all the possible manipulations of the to walk. Let's look at an example of an irregular verb, to eat. To eat, whoops, sorry, that should say, can I change it? No. So, to eat, ate, eaten, eating, and eats. So there's a little mistake there. That second one should not have an S. So it should say to eat, eat. Okay. So those are all the possible manipulations of this verb, to eat. So let's look at the first one, the infinitive. So in English, you have 2 infinitives. The full infinitive with to, so to walk, to eat. And the base form or bare infinitive without to. So walk, eat. So there are 2 different types of infinitives in English. The full infinitive and the bare infinitive or the base form. So let's start full infinitive. When is the full infinitive? So this is interesting, and it's a common mistake that French people make when they want to talk about purpose. So we use the full infinitive to show purpose. So I moved to Paris to find a job. A lot of French people, because you use the word pour, perhaps in the French sentence, they say things like, I moved to Paris to find a job. But no, we just use what we call the infinitive of purpose. I moved to Paris to find a job. Or you can simply say, why did you move to Paris? To find a job. So we can use a short answer with the infinitive. I moved to Paris to find a job. I registered with Anglify to learn English. So we talk about the purpose, the reason for doing something. We can use the full infinitive. Okay. The next use of the full infinitive is after adjectives. Not all adjectives, but very often when you use an adjective and you want a verb after that, you infinitive. So, it is difficult to understand. I was happy to see you. It is too cold to go to the beach. So we have adjectives, difficult, happy, cold, and then a full infinitive. It is difficult to understand. Is this difficult to understand? I hope not. I was happy to see you. It is too cold to go to the beach. So often you will have this to and then an adjective and then the infinitive. So it is too cold to go to the beach. You can say it is too hot to eat soup. So there are a lot of sentences that have this to adjective and then a full infinitive. Okay, because generally after an adjective, you will have a full infinitive. This is part of the concept of verb patterns, for those of you who have studied that. We also use the full infinitive after some verbs. So, I decided to go home. I want to eat. He would like to play football. Okay, L'Atelier has a good question. We can't say, remember L'Atelier, to show it's a question. You can say, can we not say? Can we not say, it was nice seeing you? Absolutely, you can. So, as I said, it's not always after adjectives that you have full infinitive, but it's very often. Usually, I would probably personally say, it was nice to see you. But you will often hear people saying, it was nice seeing you. If we take another example, he is difficult to understand. He is difficult understanding. It doesn't work. So there are a lot of situations where the ing won't work very well after an adjective, but not all situations. So it's a good example. It was nice seeing you is a common expression and it's a good one. But you will also hear it was nice to see you. So more often than not, after an adjective, you will have a full infinitive. Okay. So after some verbs, again, some verbs, it depends on the verb. So I decided to go home. Why do we have to go here? Because the verb that comes before it is decide. I decided to go home. I want to eat. He would like to play football. So you have to get to know the pattern. After certain verbs, you will have the full infinitive. Some examples: decide, want, would like. Great. We are going to look at the base form, the bare infinitive or infinitive without to. When do we use the base form? We use it with the imperative. So close the door, put the potatoes in the oven. Mimi says, can we not say I decided to go at home? No, Mimi. So here, I decided to go home. Now, you can say I am at home or I left my bag at home. So it talks about the place. But when we use I decided to go home. Now, I decided to go to Paris. We will use a preposition. I decided to go to Paris. I decided to go to the cinema. But when we use at home, it's talking about that particular location. So I am at home. Good. So Looking at, by the way, if anyone has any, thank you, Mimi. If anyone has any questions, please use the chat. These are good questions, and it's really nice to see the questions from L'Atelier, from Mimi, from everybody present. So the imperative, you have the base form, the bare infinitive, and here it has no subject. So we don't say, you close the door, generally. So close the door, put the potatoes in the oven. Be careful with your tone of voice because it can sound very direct. Close the door. It's not necessarily very friendly. So try to use it in a friendly way. Oh, close the door. Or in a less direct way. So we might say something like, would you mind closing the door? So it's much more polite because it's less direct. So we don't, the imperative, it's very direct. So sometimes we avoid using it. So, but if you use the imperative, you want to use the bare infinitive, the infinitive without to. Close the door, put the potatoes in the oven. If you read a recipe, you will often see imperatives. First, turn on the oven. Then chop your potatoes. Then put the potatoes in the oven. We also use the bare infinitive or the base form after modal verbs. Can, could, might, should, will, must, may, have to. These are examples of modal auxiliary verbs. So I can speak English. I would like some ice cream. You must be tired. It might rain tomorrow. You should go to the doctor. So you will see you have the bare infinitive, the infinitive without to, always after a modal verb. So again, it's a common mistake. Sometimes I hear people saying things like, you must to be tired, or you must to go to the doctor. Must is a modal verb, so after we need the base form, okay? Or I might to have a party for my birthday. I might have a party for my birthday. So that's another use of the bare infinitive. We also use the infinitive. Sorry, I don't have a slide, but we also use the bare infinitive after certain verbs. So you can see, oh no, sorry, after the modal verbs, bare infinitive, sorry. Let me check, yeah. So we also use the base form for the present simple. So for talking about a general situation or a routine action, we use the base form. Some examples. We had our verb to eat, so now we have the base form. I eat a lot of pizza. We live in an apartment. I like chocolate. So for the present simple, we simply remove the to, we use the base form. But this is very important. Be careful with the third person singular. So he, she, it, we need an S added. He eats a lot of pizza. The president lives in that house. The book costs a lot of money. So don't forget that S when you're writing, when you're speaking, to pronounce that S. So we use the base form, but we add an S. Another situation where we use the base form is in present and past simple, negative, and questions with the auxiliary do or did. So, I do not eat cheese. She does not live here. I did not go to the party. She did not eat her dinner. So you can see we have a negative. I do not eat cheese. So we have the base form. That's where some people make a mistake. Some people say, She does not lives here because third person, but no, it's the base form without any S. She does, there we have the S, not live here. Some people also say things like, I did not went to the party, but no, we need the base form. I did not go to the party. She did not eat her dinner. Okay, so we have form in all of those situations. And it's the same with present and past simple questions with the auxiliary do or did. Where do you live? At what time do you usually get up? Did you talk to your sister? Where did you go for lunch? So those are our first two. We have the full infinitive with to and the bare infinitive without to, or the base form. Does anybody have any more questions? If you have a question, just ask. But hopefully everybody is doing okay. The next form of the verb we're going to talk about is the ing. Okay, the ing. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for letting me know. It's good. I hope everybody is there. I know it's a lot of theory, but you can practice at home with your computer, maybe repeating the pronunciation and just remembering, oh, sometimes I make a little mistake there. You can take a little note. So I know it's not as fun as some of our previous webinars, but hopefully you are benefiting from it. So the next section, the next form, thank you, Freddie, is the ing. This is really interesting and a big area. So let's get started. So the ing is used in continuous, or sometimes we say progressive forms with the verb to be. So for any continuous form, you need two things. You need the verb to be plus the ing. The verb to be can be in the present, can be in the past. We can change according to the situation, but the ing always stays the same. So present simple, are is plus ing, past simple, present continuous, are is plus ing, past continuous, was or were plus ing, present perfect continuous, have been plus ing, will for the future continuous, will be plus ing. So you will always have those two elements. You will have the verb to be in some form and the ing. Let's look at this a little bit more. So continuous or progressive forms. So I am eating spaghetti. Oh, it's messy. I am eating spaghetti. He is drinking beer. That's good. He is drinking beer. She was walking home when she saw the accident. I was eating breakfast when my phone rang. She has been learning English for 6 months. Okay. She has been learning English for 6 months. Yes, L'Atelier, the verb to be is an auxiliary. Exactly, it's an auxiliary. So in all of these sentences, the verb to be is our auxiliary, and we have our main verb in the ing. Thank you, Nicole. So the verb to be is an auxiliary. It just is part of the grammar, but the meaning comes from the main verb, and that one is in the ing. So, okay, let's test my acting skills. And I am going to act, and I want you to guess, to say what I am doing, okay? Let me see. Okay. Can you guess what I'm doing? I will do it again, but with sound effects. Ellen, you got it. I am biking, yes. Okay, so I am riding my motorbike. I think, Freddie, maybe you would like to do that. So I'm riding my motorbike. I am biking. So you can see the action in progress. So that's why we use the continuous form or the progressive form. Remember at the start, we talked about state verbs and dynamic verbs. So this is where we use a lot of dynamic situations. Okay, so because you can see the action in progress. Ellen said in the past, you cannot say she had been learning. You can, Ellen, that would be past perfect continuous. So first, Ellen, we would need to create a context of the past, and then we would talk about something happening for a period of time before that. Let me show you an example. It's not very commonly used, but it's a good question. So for example, when she arrived in London, she was very happy because she had been learning English for 6 months and she felt confident. It should say for 6 months. So here we are telling a story about the past. When she arrived in London last year, she was very happy because she had been learning English for 6 months and she felt confident. So we are using the past perfect continuous. But if we want to use the present perfect continuous, she has been learning English for 6 months because we are talking about an action that started in the past but is still ongoing now. Great. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Good. It's a very good question and a difficult question. Today, we are not going to talk too much about the past perfect because we don't use it too often. We're going to focus on the core elements, but it's a good question. Thank you, Freddie. Good. Okay. The ing, another use of the ing, we can use the ing as a noun. So swimming is a great sport. I love swimming. So we can use the ing as a subject noun. Swimming is a great sport. Learning English is a big challenge. Traveling is good for your mind. Or we can use it as an object. I love swimming. I think traveling is a great way to have new experiences. So we can use it as a subject or as an object. So the ing is the noun form of a verb. Remember that prepositions are used to connect nouns to a sentence or to a phrase. So after prepositions, if you want to put a verb, you have to transform it into a noun. How do you do that? Use the ing. So he is afraid of flying. I am looking forward to meeting you. She gave up smoking. So you will see that often when you have a phrasal verb, you will have a preposition, and generally that will be followed by an ing. So he is afraid of flying. Of is our preposition. We need a noun after the preposition, but I want to use a verb. What can I do? I can transform my verb into a noun by using the ing form. We also use the ing after certain verbs. So I avoid drinking coffee at night. I don't mind cooking. He practices standing on his head. So after the verb avoid, we want to have ing. This comes down to verb patterns, as we mentioned before. So remember earlier we saw I decided to go home, decide, and the full infinitive. Here we have avoid and the ing. I avoid drinking coffee at night. I don't mind cooking. He practices standing on his head. Avoid, it means éviter. So when you don't want to do something, you want to stay away from it. Coffee is not good at night. I avoid drinking coffee at night. Alain has a question. Can you say, I am looking forward to meet you? The simple answer, Alain, is no. I don't like saying no. The truth is, people will understand you, but it's not correct because here, to is a preposition. So we need an ing after that. So I am looking forward to meeting you. I am looking forward to meeting you. Nicole says it's a rule or okay, remember for a question, is it a rule or are there exceptions? So is it a rule or are there exceptions? And Frank, yes, hello Frank. How can we know which verbs need ing? Okay, very good questions. First of all, Nicole, there is an expression in English. There are exceptions to every rule. So for example, after a preposition, back to this one, prepositions, there are a few verbs that do not take the ing after certain prepositional phrases, but they are extremely rare. You don't need to worry about them. They are, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 situations in 1,000. So yes, there are exceptions, but they are very rare. Yeah, the exception is the rule. The exception is the rule. Yes, we have the same. Yeah, there are exceptions everywhere. It's true. So, yeah, exceptions for this one, Cole. Ing after certain verbs. It's not so much that there are exceptions. It's just you have to know which verb goes with which form. There are sometimes verbs that go with both forms. So for example, if we take the verb like, if we take the verb like, I like playing football, I like to play football. Both are correct. Both options are correct. But they give a different feeling. So I like playing football might be if you ask me, oh, what kind of things do you do at the weekend? I like playing football. There is no particular emphasis. I'm talking about things that I like. I like playing football. I like reading. I like spending time with my friends. But when I say I like to play football, I am adding emphasis to the verb to play. So if you say to me, oh, there is a big match on TV tomorrow. Do you want to watch it? And I say, no, but you told me you're a football fan. I like to play football, not to watch football. So I am changing it. So most of the time, when you use like or love or hate, most of the time we will use ing, but quite often, sometimes you will have the full infinitive. So Frank asked, how can we know which verbs need ing? It depends, Frank, on the verb that comes before. So when you have avoid, you know, if I have a verb after it, I need ing. So for example, I avoid my ex-girlfriend. So here I have a noun. I avoid my ex-girlfriend. I don't want to see her. So When you say, I avoid, you can have a noun. But if you have a verb, that verb needs to be in the ing. So I avoid eating too much cake. It doesn't matter what the verb is, eat, drink, watch, play. It's about the verb that comes before. It's about the avoid. So this is what we call part of verb patterns. So our minds like patterns. When you think about music, so if you have music, dum dum tsh, dum dum tsh, dum dum tsh, dum dum tsh, dum dum. What comes next? Tsh. We want to hear that tsh. So I avoid, our brains expect ing. I avoid drinking. If you say, I avoid to drink coffee at night, people will understand you, but it's not correct. In our minds, it's like, doesn't sound good, doesn't sound nice. So that's why we want to see, avoid drinking. How can you learn all of these patterns? Simply by reading and being conscious of the patterns and trying to absorb them and then use them yourself. Okay, I hope that helped, Frank. It's a good question and it's a big area. So you start to get to know, when I hear avoid, if there's a verb, it's ing. When I hear decide, if there's a verb, it's infinitive, full infinitive. Okay. MDO asked, can we start a sentence by knowing? Yes, you can. So again, we can think about a sentence like, knowing that the food was spicy, I didn't eat any of the food because I don't like spicy food. So this is what we call a reduced clause. It's quite technical and it's not very common, but it is possible. So we can use that, but it's quite technical, NDO. So it is possible. It's true. Okay. Thank you, Frank. Remember, if anyone has any further questions, you can also, if it's not explained well for you, send me an email at any time and I will try to help you. Good. ING as an adjective. Grammar is confusing. It is an interesting book. I watched a boring film. So we can use ing as an adjective. Some people I have heard say things like, grammar is confused. It is an interested book, but that doesn't work in this context. So here we want to use the ing because we are describing something which creates a feeling, which creates a reaction. So if you, grammar, oh my God, I am confused. Grammar is confusing. If you're reading a book, wow, this book is great. It's really interesting. L'Atelier, if you are there, are the books that you bought, are they interesting? Okay. And Nicole, I just see you said, my bad. No, Nicole, don't worry. It's good contribution and a good question. So don't worry about that. So L'Atelier said, seems to, yeah, good. They seem to be interesting. Great. I'm happy to hear that. So it's an interesting book. Last weekend, my wife and I, we watched a movie. It was so boring. It was a boring movie. So we were, this movie is boring. I watched a boring film. Okay, great. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, so we can use ing as an adjective. We can use ing as a noun. We need to use ing after prepositions. We need to use ing after certain verbs. And we need to use ing to form the continuous. So you can see ing is very important to us with lots of different uses. Next, we have the past simple. The past simple. Regular verbs in the past simple, we add ed. So our examples, we saw walk, the verb to walk. We saw to walk, walk, walking, walked. Okay. Irregular verbs, they always change. So our example was eat. We had to eat, eating, ate. So there are some examples. Regular verb worked, played, cooked. Irregular verbs ate, bought. What do? They show an action in the past. Remember, this is the past simple. We are focused on the state or the action as a completed or whole action. Another thing about the past simple is it is not interested in the present. So when we use the past simple, we are not interested in the present. We are only talking about the past. So, I lived in Lyon. I ate toast for breakfast. Okay? We are not interested in the present. We are only talking about the past. So that's where some people say, I have lived in Lyon. It's correct. You are telling me about your experience. But I lived in Lyon in 2021. So now I'm just talking about that year in the past. I need to use the past simple. So the past simple shows an action in the past. It's not interested in the present. It's a simple action, focused on it as a complete. Or the, I hope everyone can hear me. So remember, we don't use the past simple for the negatives or the questions because we have our auxiliary. Did you live in Lyon? So we use the base form. But for the positive, I lived in Lyon. Did you eat toast? I ate toast. I didn't eat cornflakes. So that's the past simple. So we had to walk, walk, walking, walked, walked. So the last one, the past participle. So it's the same as the past simple for regular verbs. Sometimes for irregular verbs, it's different. So to eat, eat, eating, ate, eaten. So the past participle is always used with an auxiliary verb. So that auxiliary verb might be have to form the present perfect. I have been to London. I have visited London. Okay. So here we need it for questions as well. Have you eaten dinner? So have you eaten dinner? Yes, I have eaten dinner. Okay. So we can use it for the present perfect. Remember, the present perfect, there needs to be an element of the past and an element of the present. So the present perfect helps to tell us about something happening across those two time frames. So we can use it for life experiences. I have been to London. It's a life experience. I am focused on my life. I have been to London. For example, my father has been to London. My grandfather went to London once. So my grandfather, unfortunately, is no longer here. So there's no connection to the present. So we're not going to use the present perfect. We need to want to connect that past and that present. So if you say to me, London is a beautiful city, there are so many things to see and do. I think you should go to London. It's wonderful. I love it. And I say, Mm, I have been to London. So I'm saying this is part of my experience. Often, when you meet someone for the first time, you might ask a question. Have you ever? So, if, for example, you meet me in a class, I might say to you, "Where do you come from?" Like Frank, I met Frank last week, and I said, "Where are you from, Frank?" And he said, "I'm from Dijon." He maybe said, "Have you ever been to Dijon?" And I said, "No, I have never been to Dijon." So then he can tell me about it. It's a beautiful city. It's very nice. Or I can say, "Yes, I have been to Dijon." "Really? When did you go?" "Oh, 5 years ago. It was great." So it's a very nice way to start a conversation. Have you ever been to place? Have you ever eaten in that restaurant? Or if we talk about music, for example, Freddie is a big fan of U2, and he might say, "Have you ever seen U2 in concert?" I say, "No, I have never seen U2 in concert." So it's a good way to talk about life experiences. It's also a good way to talk about things that are still started in the past but are not finished. So I have lived here for 2 years. I have been a teacher for 15 years. So I am starting my action in the past. 15 years ago, I became an English teacher, and I am still a teacher now. I have been an English teacher for 15 years. So that's another way to use the present perfect. And a final way to use the present perfect is something that is directly related to the present conversation or situation. So, if we're going to watch a movie and you say, "Oh, look, this movie is great, Star Wars." And I say, "I have already seen it. I don't want to watch Star Wars." And you say, "Okay, what about mm, Terminator?" I say, "I have never seen Terminator. Let's watch it." Okay. So something that happened in the past or didn't happen in the case of Terminator, but it has an impact on the current situation. Okay. So I have never seen Terminator. Let's watch it. Okay. We also use the past participle for passive voice. Yes, I have never seen Star Wars either, Ellen. We also use the past participle for passive voice. A lot of computers are made in China. My computer was made in China. So for the passive voice, we use the verb to be and the past participle. Look at these sentences. An active sentence: Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. The painting in the Louvre, in English, we call it the Mona Lisa. Perhaps in French, you call it something like Gioconda or something like that. But in English, we call it the Mona Lisa. So Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. But if I want to make that passive, I need to use the verb to be and the past participle. The Mona Lisa, la Joconde, la Joconde. Okay, thank you, Ella. So the Mona Lisa, or the La Joconde, was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Or I can say the Mona Lisa was painted in 1468. So what the passive voice allows me to do is to remove the subject. Remember we saw this structure in English, subject, verb, object. But sometimes we don't want to start with the subject because maybe it's not our focus, or maybe we don't know who was responsible. So for example, if you ask me about my computer, I'm not going to tell you about the person who made the computer. I'm going to tell you about the computer. My computer was made in China. My computer was made in China. So we need the verb to be in any form and a past participle. So for example, my car will be fixed next week. Who will do the fixing? Who will be responsible? I don't know. It's not important, but my car will be fixed next week. Okay. Okay, good. So Sebastian asked about a really good question. I have been teaching for 15 years. I have been a teacher for 15 years. Both are correct, and both, because they're present perfect, say, yes, this is the situation at the moment. So by choosing the present perfect simple, you are thinking of just this event, this action. You are not highlighting the time element. But by using the continuous, you are highlighting, you are emphasizing or accentuer the time element. So I've been teaching for 15 years. I've been a teacher for 15 years. Both are correct, both are good. So it's just your choice. They have a slightly different feeling, but both are good options. And they tell me the same thing. I started 15 years ago, and I am a teacher now. But remember, for state verbs, you don't want to use the continuous. So for example, if we say that Emmanuel Macron has been the president for, I think, 7 years, maybe more. So here we need to use the simple. Emmanuel Macron has been the president for 7 years, because to be the president, it's a state. It's not an action. Now, to teach is an action. So I have been teaching for 15 years. Good. I have been a teacher for 15 years. Good. But Emmanuel Macron has been the president for 7 years. Great. It's a really good question. Sometimes it's very tricky when to use the present perfect simple, when to use the present perfect continuous. A lot of the time, not all the time, they both work. It's your choice. But be careful with state verbs. We try not to use the continuous with state verbs. There are some situations where there can be a difference, but that's not important to us today. Unfortunately, Sebastian, be careful, be careful. Good, good. Okay, I think, let me check if there are any lines. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. The past participle can also be used as an adjective. So remember, this book is boring. I am bored. This book is interesting. So l'atelier, she is interested. Okay, she is interested in etymology. So when we use the past participle as an adjective with a person, it can describe the person's feelings. So remember, we contrasted boring. This movie is boring. I am bored. This book is interesting. I'm interested. And we can also use past participle to form certain adjectives that come from the past participle. So, for example, the verb to break, broke, broken, the past participle, can be used as an adjective. The broken window is on the second floor. You cannot do this with every verb. It's just some, but it's one way that we form adjectives. So broken is an adjective that comes from past participle. Interested is an adjective that comes from the past participle. Bored is an adjective that comes from the past participle. So the bored, or let's change it. The excited children jumped and laughed. The excited children jumped and laughed. So excited here, it's an adjective. Okay, so that's the end of the webinar about the English verb. So I just want to recap that we can take any verb. Let's take the verb to walk, and we can think about how many words can I get from the verb to walk. To walk, the full infinitive. Walk, the bare infinitive, or the base form. Be careful, sometimes we add s. Walked, past simple. Walked, past participle. And walking, the ing. If we take the verb to eat, eat, ate, eaten, and eating. So there are 5 words we can take from each verb. Also be careful if you want 6 with the s for the third person singular present simple. And then you need to think about, in which situations do I need the past participle? In which situations do I need the past simple? In which situations do I need the ing? It's difficult, it's not easy, but these core ideas can help you, I hope. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Now is your chance. Okay, so I'm very happy to receive questions. Sebastian, you removed your comment. No problem. Criticism is allowed. Latelia, great question. Can you share your files? Good, absolutely. I will share the PowerPoint. I'm not sure exactly how, but if you want the PowerPoint, if you want the files, I think the best thing for you to do is to email me and I will email them to you. So remember my email, patrick@anglify.com. Or maybe a link in the description. Okay, yes. L'Atelier, I am not the technical person, but I will ask my social media manager to do that because that's a good idea. But another option, if anyone wants, is to send me an email requesting the PowerPoint, requesting the files, and I will send it to you. Absolutely. Great idea. Okay, I'm glad you found it interesting, Ellen. It's great to see you here and great to have you every week and everybody else. Mimi, thank you. Thank you very much. It's great that you came. Before we go, I know it's a little bit, before we go, I want to tell you about next week's webinar. It's all about travel and tourism because I think everybody is excited about summer holidays coming up. And so I've already been planning this a little bit because we had the English verb today. It's quite dense. It's quite sometimes boring. And so I wanted to look at something fun and interesting. So the topic is travel and tourism. And I would be very happy if you joined me again next week at 8 o'clock on YouTube. Okay. Yes, Frank is absolutely right. Now you have to practice. So Frank, practice. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just try your best, but be conscious sometimes. So maybe when you're reading, when you're listening, think about the verbs and then try to put that into practice yourself. Okay, great. Thank you for all this kind comments. from Jean-Marie, from Freddie. That's great. Thank you, Freddie. I will see you soon. Good. Thank you, Sebastian. I hope to see you again. Thanks, Thais. I will see you soon too. Ellen, I am looking forward to the next webinar as well. It's going to be great to see you there. Good. Great. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you coming, and I hope to see you next week at 8 o'clock on YouTube as usual. Okay. Next week, travel and tourism. After that, we will have another webinar, and then there will be a little break because I will be away for a few weeks. So we have next week and 1 week more. Oh, and don't forget, next week it's a holiday. It's the 1st of May, but that doesn't matter. I will still be here, so I hope to see you guys too. But I know maybe you will be having fun with family and friends. But I will be here on the 1st of May with travel and tourism. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's great to see you, and I hope you enjoyed the class. I'll talk to you soon. Take care and have a good evening. Bye-bye. Bye, bye-bye, Mimi. Bye, Alan.